and welcome back to Reality Check. We are back again with another conversation that we believe will change your life. This week we are talking retirement and mental health. Now you'll agree with me that mental health is something we're going to be talking about for a very long time. Now retirement, in simple terms, and we're going to get into a proper definition, is the transition of an individual from working actively to working less. And so we want to talk about what that looks like, because that transition can actually trigger anxiety, it can trigger depression, and all kinds of emotions that are less than desirable. So welcome to the show. We encourage you to subscribe to this channel, to like and comment, and of course share this episode with someone who might find this useful. Joining me today is a special guest, Jesse Ainebyoona. Jesse is a trainer in personal finance. So if that's something that you're interested in, you might want to get in touch with him. And also Doctor EVAS Atwine, who is our mental health expert and advocate. And she's also the founder of International Center for Mental Health and Family Care. Yeah. One day I will get that in my head. One day.
You've got it.
Yeah, I got it right.
Yes. Today is that one
Today
day.
is that one day. Super. Welcome to the show, lady and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Evas, when you suggested that we talk about retirement and mental health, I was like, oh my God, yes.
Yes.
Let's discuss it. I think there's a tendency for some of us to think we're going to be young forever, and keep working. So let's start at the beginning. What is retirement? What does it mean? There are people who are working and they don't understand what retirement means. So maybe we'll start with you, Jesse. Yeah.
Thank you, Rachel, and I'm delighted to be on the show today as we talk about retirement, a very critical part of our lives. And Rachel has already alluded to it. It is that transition from your active life to that life where you may not quite say what it is. Either you are working passively or some people don't even work at all. And I just want to look at it in two ways. I'm looking at it as that time when you are no longer able to work actively. And that also brings me to the point that retirement is not only what happens after work. It's not only in the old years. It can happen anytime. So we can be retired anytime. Take, for example, somebody is traveling in a car one day, they get a bad accident, and they are unable to work. But they haven't died, they are still alive, but they can no longer work.
They're incapacitated.
They are incapacitated, thank you. So the person is 30, but now they have been retired.
Wow. So it's involuntary.
It's involuntary.
Yes.
The other aspect of retirement I want to look at is working not because you have to, but because you want to.
Okay.
So sometimes you may choose to say, you know what, I have retired. And by that, one simply means that I am working not because I must, because if I don't, I will not earn money to sustain my life.
That's right.
But it is working at doing something that you love to do. So you have built systems that even if you did not have to work, your life is still able to move forward. And because we have failed to manage this process, the statistics are not in our favor. In the African context, two things. One, many people look at their children as a retirement plan. So I invest in my children so that, they can invest in me. You are putting a burden on your children. The children that would have taken care of your grandchildren, now they are taking care of you. But the other thing is that it has been realized that many people, maybe about majority of the people, die 2 to 3 years after retirement. And the simple reason is because we have connected so much with our work that we cannot imagine life without work. So in the African context, that's what I look at retirement as. That's right.
All right. So, and I think you sort of touched on one of the misconceptions of retirement, which is we hope that our children are going to take care of us. So maybe, Evas, you could start on this. What are some of those misconceptions about retirement preparedness?
I think as I'll just build on what Jesse has mentioned. And for me, I'll call it investing in relationships. Now, Jesse has mentioned one of them where we hope that our children, now that I've invested, now I'm entitled to them looking after me in retirement. And we forget that they also have their lives to live. They have their burdens to carry. Yes, they have a responsibility somehow to support, but it shouldn't be an obligation that we, and a burden that we put on them. But then the second thing is about retiring, and I mentioned this always, retiring to relationships. We retire to relationships. So one of the challenges that I'm seeing is that we think retirement preparation is about accumulating money and properties that will sustain you in those years. Now, but we forget to nurture relationships, which we retire to, because, and Jesse probably will talk about this a little more. For me, what I'm seeing from my professional work line is that people get this rude reality that actually what we need most in retirement is good relationships. It's good relationships because it's family. It is the people, the most important people in your life, probably your spouse and your children. But when you are still working, we didn't pay attention to this. We gave probably 90 or plus commitment to work and accumulating wealth that we think is going to sustain us, but later on you find that actually you no longer have fees to pay. Probably you've been lucky that you have a house to live in, and so we go back to the basics of life, which you needed to focus on, but most importantly, nurturing relationships.
That is so true, because I actually read that loneliness is actually a big
thing
in retirement.
In retirement.
We spend so much time accumulating money, and we don't invest in relationships, not just with your immediate family, but also with your friends. You know, along the way, we fight with people, we don't make up, we say, I don't care, let them walk away. And then when you're growing older, you realize I don't have to work. I could be spending time with a friend. But that friend, you stopped talking to them maybe 5 years ago.
That's the thing. So we don't invest in social capital. And the social capital, of course, begins with what we call essential relationships, which is family, and then other
people.
Now, so when we retire, the other dimension is that actually we realize that the things we accumulated now are a burden because they require management, and most people no longer have the energy to manage so many things. And we'll talk about the burden then we put on children, the expectation
to try and
manage our things, the things we have accumulated, and then we are stressed. So that's where most of the stress triggers are.
Jesse, do you have any other misconceptions? Because I know that you train in, personal finance and...
I think the other misconception that we have sometimes is we think we are not about to get there. So because of that, we enjoy our life. We don't really take time to proactively plan for our retirement. We somehow like to enjoy the moment. And unfortunately, years go by so fast. Before you know it, I will never forget, Rachel. Going to speak to this group, this was a bank. A man of about 50 walked to me at the end of the session and said, thank you for this session. I'm just about 5 years from retirement, but I noticed I've not done anything until this time. That hit me like a ton of bricks. So now in my mind, I'm thinking, a career of about 30-something years is coming to an end in 5 years, and you knew it was going to happen. And these things happen every day. I mean, every other time we know that maybe we have an event coming up in a year, but somehow we don't, we know there is an event coming up, but until the last month.
Then you start panicking.
Wake up. So there is a misconception of thinking, no, I still have time. Little do we know. Every day that ticks by brings us closer to that
moment.
Actually, what Jesse is bringing up I was just thinking, we think retirement is for the seniors. And we think it's for the seniors. And it's shocking that most conversations are happening. They say, oh, old people who are about to retire, come and listen to retirement planning, which is so sad. Because that's why people blow this. Now, you are in this area and you know how people have challenges with debt management. So we don't develop the discipline that should feed into our latter years. And so we just enjoy the moment. But I also wanted to bring something else. Now, Jesse talks about those who haven't prepared and haven't put things together. I love to come from the other perspective.
Do share.
Of people who have accumulated so much. Because for me, I've seen both. I've seen anxiety come from the standpoint of I have all these things, and they are a burden. That's actually a source of stress.
Interesting.
And parents, I've met parents who are very frustrated, and they are angry with their children, and they expect their children to be their property managers.
And yet their children have their own passion.
Now, that's why I tell people, I actually advise parents, I say, number one, we realize later in life that we didn't need too much. So I always say, please accumulate what you think is enough. And now we are in the habit of pulling together all this money. Accumulate so much. And with the hope, number one, we think we are accumulating these things for our children. And that's why we say, please don't invest for your children. God has given them enough resources. And they have their own dreams. I think sometimes parents, we get into the temptation to think that our children are going to live under the shadow of our dreams.
Forever.
And so when we are pursuing our dreams, we need to know that this is for me. But I'm going to use this to prepare and empower my children to live their own dreams. Because probably they will not need to put up the house that you have put up. Probably they don't need a farm. A farm is your idea. You know, an arcade is your idea. And so if you use these resources to empower them, yes, they can take some, but your properties should not kill you. I think for me that's the message. Because I've seen retirees die and they're angry. They are frustrated. They are saying, can you imagine this child is going to live in Canada? Now why should they live in Canada? We have things here. That's your dream. That's your dream. I've never forgotten when a group of old students of a certain school met for a get-together, and there was so much lamentation. Can you imagine, I'm running this farm and my children are not interested? Now, two things. Number one, that's your idea. But number two, sometimes in the process of accumulating things, parents don't even involve children. So I remember asking them, I said, now we are here, where are the children? They have no idea whatsoever. We were meeting at a farm, we were doing goat roasting, and we are looking at this beautiful farm, and the guy is giving us lessons. None of the children was there. But we think children are going to be interested in the things we have accumulated.
When we haven't involved them.
So I think that is also part of retirement preparation. Actually, it's a big part of retirement preparation because you haven't empowered the people that are going to manage your things.
Very interesting perspective there. Because when the Bible says that a wise man leaves an inheritance for his children's children, there might be an implication that this wise man is going to equip his children to handle the estate. Then that estate will provide for both their children, but also the grandchildren, his children's children. So now it comes back to how we work it out. And I think I've seen the Indians do it so well. The way they involve their children, even from a young stage. You see their children involved in the shop. So when this child grows up, he knows that this is our business. And like here, where you'll find that a child does other things, and then it's when they are like 25, that the father brings him into the business and he's thinking, this is your thing, I want to go and pursue my thing.
Yes.
You know, so retirement planning could mean involving our children
from an early stage.
Yeah. But then also, that's true. But then also building on that, involving them, but also building the character.
Yes.
So that's why it's advisable, parents, I'm one of them, that we don't just invest for the children, but invest in them. And so when we invest in the children, we are building their character. Now, in the process of preparing them, okay, so they will see, they will participate. But what kind of character are you nurturing here? I've never forgotten when I was talking to university students, and some of them confessed to the fact that they can't wait for their parents to die so that they can drive those big cars, you know. So, and it's not uncommon that children, after the passing of their parents, they blow all these things. They do. They blow them. We have so many cases in this country where children just sell their cars or drive them or sell the house, fight, because we haven't nurtured a character of resilience, of integrity. We haven't nurtured management skills. We haven't nurtured teamwork because children are fighting everywhere. So we haven't done this. And so, but we live under this lie that after you have passed and accumulated all these, your children are going to appreciate them the way you appreciate it. That's your dream.
Not at all.
Yeah.
So it's not what we live for the children,
for the
but
children,
what we live
in them,
the children.
in the children.
I dare say that's more important.
Yeah.
It's definitely more important. Let's pivot to mental health. Just recently, Uganda joined the world to commemorate World Mental Health Day, and the theme was mental health, a universal right. What would you say are some of the mental health challenges for retirees?
Okay, so when we say mental health, we are talking about stress management. We're talking about your thought processes. What are you thinking? Are they healthy? Are they healthy thoughts? Are they worrisome thoughts? You know, thoughts of anxiety. And we are also talking about emotional stability, where you feel I'm okay amidst some of the pressures of life. Now, as you know that every group has their own triggers. Children have their own triggers from school. Those who are not from school have their triggers from work. Others have triggers from marriage or other relationships. But since we are talking about retirees or, you know, the seniors, so the mental health issues they have is, number one, stress from loneliness.
Yes, that's a big one.
Big one. Loneliness is a killer. And why this is a problem is that the bigger part of our health or mental health is actually from relationships.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so when we retire, then I've seen science indicate that actually when you retire, not less than 80% of your contacts are lost.
Wow.
Because people connect to what you do and what you give them.
What you bring to the table.
What you bring to the table. Now, sometimes we never think about this whenever we are working, we are in active service. So I'll call Jesse and say, Jesse, can you do this for me? Oh, I need this, I need you to sign this. Now, when we look, so 80% of the people that connect with you are actually connected to what you give them.
Got it. Yeah.
So when we retire, we lose not less than that percentage.
Wow.
So that's a recipe for loneliness.
Yeah.
Because that also speaks to your sense of meaning.
And meaning,
Because a sense of meaning is a point of wellness. Yeah, that actually anchors us. That's the most important thing. So every time when we retire, we if we are not careful, we lose that sense of meaning. Plus, you lose contacts.
To be needed and to be relevant.
To be needed and to be relevant. So that's a major stress trigger. The second one is most people have neglected relationships, core relationships, and again, science shows us that 80% of our wellness is from core relationships. Out of the 90 we get from general relationships, 80 is from core relationships, which is family, the most what we call significant relationships. Now, that's a major stress trigger.
Huge.
That's huge. So by the time people retire, some of them, their relationships are not good. If they are lucky that the family is not broken, some of them go to people they have neglected for a long time. And you know, relationships are about connection. So if you disconnected with your significant others because of work, and that's why I advise people say, I have to work very hard so that by 40. And then I say, please make sure that you don't work very hard by 40. And by 40, you have lost connection with your significant relationships. So we retire to poor quality relationships because your family didn't see you. Probably your children have now grown and they didn't see you, you disconnected with them. And don't be fooled. You can be related to your children, but you don't relate and you're not connected. You can be related and not connected. And so when we come back, as we said earlier, and then you realize that actually now you have no job to go to, you're not needed more by the world out, you're needed more, you were needed by the world here.
Yes. But you were not there.
But you were not there. And so people see you as a stranger. So we advise, please don't come to retire to strangers.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's, that's, I mean, how about on the financial side? What is likely to trigger poor mental health?
When EVAS talked about loneliness, in my mind, I looked at if someone is lonely on one end, and then they have loans on the other.
That's so
I mean,
bad.
now that is recipe for disaster.
That's
You
right.
just can't survive. So I'm looking at two things. I'm looking at relationships and resources.
Yes.
So kind of that balance, like the left and the right arm, both are good. Relationships on one hand, because we need them. They really feed into us. And then on the other hand, we need the resources, because then you need welfare. You need, I mean, you need to enjoy your life. You need to live a life, and you cannot keep borrowing. That alone will induce stress. That alone will induce stress. Always having to call friends, can you help me, your children. You know, they look at your call coming in and they're
like,
thinking,
how much do they want now?
Yes, now what is it? Or the bank is calling you and they are saying, now for quality purposes, this phone call is being recorded. You don't want to receive those phone calls at 75?
That's right.
No, you don't want. So I think having that balance in the relationships and also in the finances. And it really takes us to be proactive, because this begins now. This begins now. The friends you're going to have at that stage, that begins now.
Cultivate them now.
The family you're going to, well, you already have it. So that spouse that you're taking for granted, she's in your life now. So being proactive in the way you relate with them now is quite essential. And then, of course, when you look at the financials, are you intentionally planning by maybe putting aside a part of your savings? Are you... A research was done recently by NSSF, and they noticed that 98% of the people who receive their savings lose it in the first 2 years. 98%.
That's so
So
scary.
here you are, you get your 500 million that you have got after a whole span of a career. And within 2 years, by 2026, it's gone.
Wow.
And there are many reasons for that. That someone has been employed all their life, they have never done a business. And then here you are, you retire, and people are telling you, do you know there is money in goats? Do you know? But you don't even know. You don't even know how a sick goat looks like.
Right? And then you start a goat business.
You know?
Oh my goodness.
Or you say, they tell you, no. You get money and go to China. Do you know how you can sell those containers within 3 months you're back? Here you are, you get all your money, you hit the plane, go to China, you don't even know where to buy the things, you don't even know the clearing process at Mombasa Port or Dar es Salaam, you don't even know the URA process of getting things here.
I'm just getting depressed here. Because I can imagine losing all that money.
But it gets lost. I know someone who got 300 million, went to China, got stuff and came and set up a bar and then also a supermarket. Yeah. A supermarket failed in 5 months. And the bar, when I was talking to him, he told me that he prayed that something burns down that bar, and it got burnt down.
The prayers were answered.
They were answered. I've never seen, I laughed, I'd never seen someone pray for their business to get burnt down because he was so stressed.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it's sad.
It is
really
so
it's sad,
serious.
and I think the point you raise is so important, that it's about getting into something that was never your thought.
Exactly.
You're doing Jesse's business. That's his idea. If he started goat business, that is his idea. Probably he thought about, but someone has told you, do you know how much you get from goats? Do you know there's money in mobile money? But this wasn't your idea. And also it comes from the place of when we are working, we don't have time for reflection. We don't know what else we can do. Whenever I'm counseling people who are transitioning or they've lost a job, I ask them a question: what else are you capable of? What else can you do? And it's very interesting that people don't know. They know that they can be a program manager, period.
Of an NGO.
But what other skill do you have? Probably you can bake. Probably you can host a show. Probably what else is so great about you that you can do? And so I think one other source of stress is people don't know themselves. They don't know their passions, they don't know their burdens, they don't know their calling, and they don't know what else they can do beyond that bank
job.
employment. So that's it. But I also wanted to bring in something else. We need to talk about health.
Oh, yes.
Physical health?
Physical health.
Yes.
Because that's a big issue in retirement. That's a point where lifestyle illnesses have kicked in most of the time. And this comes also from a place of poor work-life balance. When you are still working,
you were sitting at that computer.
You were sitting at that computer. You weren't exercising. You weren't paying attention to what you eat. You did not think about health. And so sometimes it's taken as a given that when you turn 50 or 60, you have to get high blood pressure.
It's almost inevitable. We've taken it as it shouldn't be, because that's why it's called lifestyle. Yes.
Lower back herniation, all these things that we get in retirement. And so you find, I don't know, I don't have statistics, but I believe a big part of retirees are battling lifestyle illnesses. Now, number one, these are expensive. You know, treatment.
To manage,
to manage. And lifestyle illnesses are also, to a bigger part, a result of stress.
Got it.
Yeah, because research again in science is showing us, behavior science is showing us that 95% of all illnesses is either a result of, direct result of stress or made worse by stress. So this is why it is very, very important for us when we are still working to think about the broader aspects of life and not just focus on what am I earning, what, you know. So it's very, very important that then we understand that health has to be physical health, physical and emotional.
So there are those fundamental F's, you know, like we've talked about family. We've talked about friends. Then we've talked about finances. Fitness. And you could add on faith.
That's
faith
right.
in God. Because that alone can help to deal with some of that mental pressure. I mean, reflecting on scriptures like cast your cares unto the Lord. So not always having to carry your burdens, but knowing that you have someone that you can take them to.
For sure. Yeah. I want us to circle back to passions. And I think, Dr. EVAS, you started on that discussion on taking time off to reflect. I guess maybe talk to the ones who are watching. How do they do that? You know, I have an 8 to 5. I'm a program manager somewhere. I'm a procurement officer somewhere. I'm a banker. That's all I have known for the last 10, 15 years, and it's probably all I'll know for the next 15 or so years. When do I get the time to reflect? Why is it important? And how does that help me in my years of retirement, in discovering my passions and in who I am? Because before we were talking and saying how people don't know who they are, because in your years of retirement, you're not going to be a procurement officer. You'll probably be focusing on your passions. So let's talk a bit about that and how people can harness that conversation.
Sure, that's very important. Probably I should share an experience from my personal life.
Please.
I did program manager things for a long time, for over 20 years. I was into programming, I was into monitoring and evaluation, I was doing all this. But my training, I started as a social worker. And throughout, so as a social worker, I trained I did a bit of psychology, a bit of little basic, really counseling skills. But that wasn't the point. Throughout my career, I realized that actually what energizes me is speaking to people, is counseling people. And I just went back, I rolled back to when I was still in school. I realized, now, I remember someone talk to us and say, if you want to find your goal in life, check things you do, number one, without so much energy, but also things that really give you joy, that energize you. And so I went back and I realized throughout my life, I've been speaking into people's lives. But going back to the job that I was doing, I would be doing program work and all, but I would be counseling people in my boardrooms, in my office. People are coming to me with marriage problems. And then every time I did, I felt good. I felt people were helped. I felt this. And I followed that. I kept reflecting on that. And I realized that's what God had called me to do. So answering your question is, it's very important, just like we say, in the midst of life, there's death. That in the midst of work, there's reflection. Take off time to ask yourself, yes, I'm doing this as a job to earn, but what else can I do? What else am I good at? What else can I do? And we are not saying this to throw people into a frenzy of side hustles and what. No, but it's very important to discover what else we are good at.
You know, when you're fired, they can fire you from your job, but they cannot fire you
from your work. That's true.
While your work is your gift, your job is your skill. So over time, because we have been on jobs, we have learned some skills, and that's true. But there is somebody. Personally, I trained in mechanical engineering. That was my training. I went to the university, studied mechanical engineering, but right from the day we went to the workshops,
you knew.
I said, Jesse,
this is
not me.
It's not working.
Yes, I knew the math and the physics. I loved the calculations in class, but the practical aspect of the work, I just felt it couldn't connect to me. But back in the day, I participated in a debate in school, and I had never tried to speak in public. But I remember that time when I was on stage, I felt like I was in a state of flow. I was having a time of my life. And when they closed that debate, they said, let's recognize the debater of the day. And they called out my name.
Really?
Many years later, all the work I do is not because of what I went to school for in engineering school. It's because of that little debating certificate that I received. So God has placed something on the inside of everybody. And self-discovery means that we discover that which is there. And it is there for everybody. It might be talking to people and encouraging people. It could be designing proposals and concepts. It could be something. Unfortunately, sometimes our jobs blind us from discovering what is in us. So let this be a time of deep introspection, so that by the time you get to retirement, you retire to your passion, and that alone can re-energize you.
Yeah, it does. It does.
It just you
you love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You look forward to retiring.
Exactly. You look forward to it.
It won't be a source of stress.
Exactly.
So let's say we have retired, I am maybe 70 years old, I have left my active work. What can I do to maintain a healthy mental state? Because I think, mental health doesn't stop at when I have retired. Even throughout that process or throughout that part of my life, I want to remain healthy. What can people in that time do to maintain a healthy mental state?
Number one is to keep active.
Yes.
And active doesn't mean the same amount of energy you put into active service. But find something that keeps you active. That's why when people are still employed, we advise and we give this message that there is more to a job than money.
Yes.
Right?
That's true.
Yeah.
So when we retire, we need to engage in stuff that in activities that keep us energized, because you remember we are feeding a sense of meaning.
Yes.
And purpose. So, and I always tell people who commit suicide have lost that sense of meaning, because you'll hear that in there, say, life has lost meaning. So we don't want any individual to get to a place where they think life has lost meaning because they are not doing anything. Now, things that energize us is actually about service. So when you're in service, in active service at work and doing a job, now those jobs, sometimes indeed they blind people and they think this is meaning for me. And we advise, please let not your job be a source of meaning for you, but your work, what you do. And so when we retire, when people are turning 70, and just find something. It could be just a little, because you see, wellness, food for wellness or mental health is totally different from what it's acts of kindness and service.
Wow.
You see,
Giving back.
compassion, giving back and all. And it could be simple little things. Some people just become board members. Some people serve in their church. Some people just host people in their homes. It just acts of service, simple acts of kindness. That's a major source of well-being. So you have to find something you're giving, because when we give, we receive wellness. So that's very important. But then also, we also advise, please, as I mentioned earlier, it shouldn't sound like that's Judgment Day and all of that. No, it's never too late to do the right thing. Nurturing relationships. Nurturing relationships, because human hearts are the most forgiving parts of our lives. So if you haven't nurtured relationships, before you come back, you realize now people are saying, don't fella, you left.
They've moved on.
They've moved on you.
Yeah.
It's never too late to correct our mistakes and try to do things right. So it's never too late. So my advice is try, because relationships, that one,
very key.
That's key. You don't want to die of loneliness because people have moved on you. And so try to reconnect with especially significant relationships, because those ones are very forgiving. You know, the other ones are not
as much.
They are not as much. People move on and they don't care. You're trying to call, they say, now look at this one. Right? But your significant relationships, it's never too late to reconnect.
Very good advice.
One of the things I think, as you Eva shared about serving, it reminded me of a concept in medical terms, they call it atrophy. So what happens is that if someone breaks an arm, they put that in, there's a way they keep it in place, in position. So meanwhile, it's the other arm which is active. So when this arm is finally healed and they bring it out, this arm which has been working is much stronger than this other one. So that is atrophy.
Yeah.
If you have been so active in employment and then you find yourself retired, nothing to do. If that goes on for 2 years, you will just have all the challenges in terms of sickness, even if you have everything that you might need.
Wow.
Just because the body is no longer challenged to do anything.
That's right.
So find a place to serve so that it can continue to bring out that creative juice within you.
Yes.
So as you do that, as you enrich community, and it's not even about money, it's just about giving back. It's about finding fulfillment. So in a sense, what I'm saying is when we are looking at retirement, it might also be retire in terms of putting on new tires. So you put on new tires. Yes, you have been working as project manager somewhere. Now it's time to hit the road and now do maybe service around your community. Find a cause that you can plug yourself into. And you will just be rekindled, renewed, and revitalized.
In church, in wherever.
Wow, what an interesting conversation, and we can go on and on. I just want you to mention just 2 things, each one of you, that someone watching, maybe they are 25 years of age, they are 30, something that they can do, that you think is top on your list, that they can do to prepare for this stage in life. Real quick.
Okay. To a 25-year-old, to a 30-year-old, a 25-year-old, a 30-year-old, probably you have just got into family, or maybe you have not yet. Maybe you have just got your job, you have started earning money. I want to encourage you. The moment you get that job, begin to think about that day you will leave that job. Begin to plan, begin to save, begin to manage your money well. Manage those relationships well. Don't wait for the end of your life. Don't wait for the age of 60 to wake up and start doing things that you could have done now. So discover yourself. And in addition to your job, find something that you can do with your time, your passion, because you will one day retire from your job, but you can never retire from your passion. Discover yourself and manage your resources well as you continue to keep those relationships rekindled.
Wonderful.
Well, for me, I'll go back to family.
Yes, please emphasize.
I want to emphasize the importance of family. I think what happens is that when we are working, we forget why we are working. And so we just connect with job and give it all, but then come back and we find we are out of balance. So my advice is, as you work, don't forget what powers you. Because as the Bible says, what shall it benefit a man if you gain the whole world and lose your soul? And so I would say, what will it benefit us? If we go out there shine, everyone is applauding us, and we get so much wealth and we accumulate all these things, and then you've lost your family. You know, your children are disconnected. They don't. Sometimes, by the way, children have gone bad because parents are not there. So my message is, let's keep in balance. While you work, your retirement should not be about accumulating wealth and properties and money, and then you forget the family that anchors your life. That's very important. Secondly, what I see and what I want to leave as my parting shots, if you wish, is the expectation on children. I really want to send a message out there that as parents, let's try not to make our children prepare them as our property managers. They have their own dreams to dream. And if we can nurture them to dream alongside these things we have provided them, that's okay. But let it not be an expectation that children are just going to manage your farm, manage your arcades, manage all this, and then that becomes a source of stress. Let's invest in the character in building our children, if they can take over from where we have stopped, and they can, but also leave an allowance of children have to do their own thing. If you have 5 children, most likely not all of them will pick onto your passion. You know, let's nurture them to discover their passion. And if their passion connects with your passion, well and good. But if their passion is somewhere else, support them. And just make sure that while we work, we get enough to make sure that we give decent life to our children, but also prepare their character. Prepare their character. Don't just heap these things on them when they have no character to sustain them.
No foundation.
No foundation.
Thank you so much, Jesse and Dr. EVAS. I think this has been very enlightening for those of us, for our audience. If you have a question, a comment, please leave it in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts about retirement and how it's connected to mental health? What are you doing to prepare for retirement? Do you know your passion? Do you know yourself? Do you know your purpose? We hope that you have discovered, or at least are on the path to discovering your purpose and your passion. I've enjoyed this conversation. I don't know about you. It's been absolutely interesting. So thank you for watching, and do join us next time for another conversation right here on Reality Check.